Who's leading us in today? We sat here thinking about, okay, who let us in last time? Well, who's for the next episode? So we're just, probably both going to go for it. Hey, guys.
Hi,
We're
friends. Oh
here.
my gosh. She was like, I was like, Nichole, it doesn't matter. I promise. We've gone out of order before.
Everything's out
At
of
some point,
order.
everything's out of order. But you know what I'm so excited about? This is the second time I've seen you in one day.
In
Can you
one
even
day.
believe it? I know.
I know. So mom came over this morning to watch my little one for a little bit. And then she got here early. I asked her to get here at like 7. And she showed up at 6:45. And then she's like, well, you said 7. I was like, well, yeah. My phone wasn't even on yet to like get her phone call. So then he eats breakfast every morning. So I gave him his cereal with his banana in it. And she's like, no, I'm taking him out to breakfast. I was like, don't worry. He eats 2 breakfasts like whenever he can, especially on the weekends. He'll be fine. And yeah. He ate his food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was nice to see you. And we're just like, see you in a couple hours. So yeah, I feel like it's been quite a productive day. And at the time of recording, we're recording at noon. It's like we've had a full day already. It's the best. Yeah. So
it has been
anyways,
a full day.
Tell the people how you're doing. We haven't had a check-in. It feels like we haven't had a check-in / solo episode in a minute, or at least like for us, just recording the two of us. So yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Let's see. Trying to get through the end of the school year for both work and family. We started round 4 of injections for IVF. We have an embryo. We've got an embryo the last time. Yay! And it's a surprise. I'm not going to tell you guys.
Yeah, I know. I have my thoughts.
Just me and husband and the doctor know. So anyway, but we would like to have ideally one more. So we're going through it again to see if we can try to get one more good embryo to use before we go through with the process of transfer. So we shall see when that would be. And I think that's it. Nothing really. Well, okay. I don't want to say too much. I'm in the process of creating something. And I'll leave it at that because I'm not done. I'm really excited about it. We'll see when I can have it ready to talk about. Maybe soon. It has to be soon. I need to get it done soon. So you guys will hear about my little project soon.
I'm excited for you across the board because I feel like because there's an end in sight with the whole IVF situation, at least this part of that process, which is quite extensive, like there's just so much to look forward to. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like your energy shows it in the best ways. So just wanted to share.
Thanks. That's all that's new here. What about with you?
I'm super excited because I feel like I have a new, not to say I wasn't motivated before, but I feel like I have a new sense of motivation with respect to the podcast because we've both received some kind of positive feedback in our own way where you've seen some ROI on your end. And I had my first sitter that found me through this podcast for a reading that I didn't or was not connected to in any way aside from the podcast. So I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And she was out of Connecticut. So shout out when said listener listens to this by the time she gets past it. Yeah, episode 14. And I was like, thank you for hanging with us because the first ones were rough. So
I mean, let's be real. Episodes, we're in the 60s are still a little bit rough. So
I mean, I think that's one thing that we can probably promise through the end of time. It's like we're trying to get together, guys, but no promises that we will get it together.
What does, together actually look like, though? I feel like because we don't have a definition, there's nothing to really look forward to or like not a goal to work towards, which is why nothing's really changed. Okay. Brett did say that he noticed a improvement from the beginning to now. So thanks, Brett.
Shout out to one of our listeners that we just had on the show. But also, I think if we were comparing ourselves to other podcasts, which, you know what, we're just in our own lane. We're just doing it. So it doesn't matter. Like, thanks for hanging, guys. Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review.
Yeah, but that's what makes podcasts, I think, so
Unique.
interesting and unique and different because everybody is doing it in such a different way. And I think
Mhm.
that's part of the reason also why we've noticed in the podcast community that there isn't a lot of competition because everybody's so different and unique that it's not like, oh, but you're doing the exact same thing I'm doing. So, like, now you're my competition. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
no, everybody's so different that everybody's cheering each other on. And yeah, I think
I
that's
also
totally
think it's
fine.
so cool to see the variety of like how different podcasts can truly be because all podcasts are so different. So I think that that is also really something to take into account. So yeah, well said.
Totally.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today? I personally love this episode topic. When Nicole actually came up with it, she hit me up and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this because it just feels very timely.
Yeah. So I was listening to actually, I wasn't listening to it. My homegirl manifestation babe was doing a workshop series and I was listening to or watching it, I guess. It was like a video. I was watching it and she was talking about receiving. And I was like, oh, that's such a good topic to talk about. And so we're going to be talking about the energy of receiving, which I'm sure you guys will know because that's what the title of the episode is. And it came about because as I was listening to her workshop and thinking about it, and I want everybody to kind of think about it right now. How well can you receive? Period. And receiving can come in the form of compliments, help, gifts, money. How well do you receive in general? And I know that I suck at receiving, and it's something that I'm trying to be better at. So I thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about today.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so where should we start? Because we have a couple points we wanted to hit, but I definitely think that it would be helpful if we were to both speak to our personal experiences with receiving, because I agree, I do struggle with that, especially when I am operating out of my masculine energy, which is pretty much most of the time because I am in my masculine energy when I am working, especially, and I work very frequently. So I agree with Nicole's point about it being a challenge. And I also feel like there's a little bit of that that is taught. And it's definitely something that you pick up,
Mm.
especially through maybe your childhood years. And I do have a couple examples of just like maybe parenting examples like that, I've experienced and I've observed friends that have picked that up from their parents. And
Ooh,
it's
let's
not
talk about
always,
that.
well, it's not positive. So, but again, everything
Well,
has polarity.
right.
And
Okay, so
yeah.
before we get into that, maybe let's just kind of talk about why do you think that it is so difficult to receive any of those things? And there's so much more like receiving love. We didn't even add love on there, but
Hmm.
how able are you? Or how able are you? Yeah, how able are you
Yeah.
to receive love from another person, whether it's a romantic partner, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member? Just, and where does
Hmm.
that come from? And I think we had kind of spoken to the fact that maybe it comes from our feelings of worthiness, which is directly connected to what?
The solar
The
plexus.
solar plexus. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so when
Hmm.
you said that, I was like, oh, that's so true.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I just, you were talking about love, and I was like, well, that could also come up in areas of career, basically all different areas of life, right? And I do have a couple of examples with respect to that. But to answer your question, so said friend, I have observed, and you and I can both agree, she's not going to listen to this. And even if she did, I'd probably tell it to her face anyway. But she is kind of, what did,
uh,
tacaño in Spanish, but a mooch
yeah,
in, yeah.
both. I would say both, like
Uh
a little
huh.
bit tight with the money. And then
Uh huh.
also, yeah, not only are they tight with the money, but they are a mooch.
So they've directly observed this and learned this from their parent because
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it. And I just have this
Oh,
example. Yeah, I've seen this. Well, anyways, it is definitely something that can be passed on. But I also think that there's a time and a place where it's like, it's okay to receive. But if it's every single time and you're taking advantage of a situation,
right.
that's when it's like a little bit of there's an extremity to it.
Mhm.
And I think that there can also be you can do it with grace. So I actually learned this, and this is coming to mind. My girlfriend, she went to a baseball game with her then boyfriend, and they had really solid seats to the Dodger game. And this guy wanted to pay him because he was a ticket holder to switch seats with them, and because his daughter, it was like a special experience for his daughter. And they gave the seats up, right?
Mhm.
And they, he offered to pay, and he was like, "Oh, no, no, no." And my girlfriend was like, "Oh, like pass that money on to me," right? Because her mom taught her, like, no, if you're going to be offered something like that, don't deny it, because in a way, you're denying your abundance.
Mm.
So I was like, huh,
Yes.
that's something to think about.
And I can see that. And one of the things that kind of came to mind too is yes, it could be denying your abundance. Also, though, what if you're just trying to be kind-hearted, and what if you're just trying to bless
Mm-hmm.
somebody and
Mm-hmm.
not get something out of it, right? Sometimes, we do things just to do it from the kindness of our
For
heart,
sure.
not
Yes.
expecting to receive. We've talked about that a lot before,
Mm-hmm.
how like mom does that, and sometimes I do that too, where I'm like, no, I just want to do this because I want to do it. I'm not expecting to receive anything from it or
Yeah.
waiting to get anything from it. And so I can see that point, but I can also argue the side of, but I just want to do something
Mm-hmm.
nice for another person, just to be like a kind human.
Totally. And we texted mom right before this. I was like, "Mom, what's the Spanish word for it?" And dad was like, "It's a tacaño," but she said it's a garrapata. So a
I've
tick.
never heard that. A
Yeah.
tick?
It's
Just like get
ah,
on there. It's like a leech, right? Just like get on there and like
it's like a
suck.
leech.
Mhm.
So, anyways, I do think that it's a fine balance. I do think it's learned. I do think I struggle with it, to be honest, because it's even like the idea of receiving a compliment. And this is something I've actually consciously caught myself doing and
Mhm.
being more mindful of in the last maybe like 3 months, because I really am working on my solar plexus. And I will say, after doing so many readings, that solar plexus is that one chakra that's always going to be worked on and needing
Ugh,
attention, because
so
you're always
annoying.
upgrading. It really is. It's one of your main energy centers. And so when people, give me a compliment, whether it's for my work or over DM, like to my face, complimenting maybe like if I look pretty that day, I really take a second to now embrace it, like fully receive that. I imagine that just being absorbed into my energy and like accepting that as truth. And I give it the intention, and I don't dismiss it, because if you dismiss that, you're being dismissive to your solar plexus and you're weakening your energy center and yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, because how many times do we get compliments and then we might say, "Oh, thank you," and then we follow that up with something that's dismissive or unnecessary, right? "Oh my gosh, I like your shoes. Oh, thank you. I got them on sale for $10." Whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
why do we do that? Where we're not able to fully receive it. We're only maybe half-heartedly receiving it. And
Mhm.
so I've been really trying to not follow up any kind of compliment with a but or like
Mhm.
something that's unnecessary. I mean, I still do it, but I've been trying not to. It's a work in progress.
Where do you think, or like, how do you think that came to be? Because for me, I translate it as humility. So I
Mhm.
feel like it was like, Dad, like, Dad, I love you. I love you. He's like,
He
Gabby,
doesn't listen.
Gabby, yeah, he doesn't. But he's like, be humble about it, because he didn't want any of like my strengths or skill sets from a young age to really get to my
Mhm.
head. And I understand
Mhm.
where he's coming from. Like, there's this man, he's very secure within himself. He doesn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
So he knows certain things to be true, but I think that was just his way of teaching, which I really appreciate, because that's also an ancestral thing too, because I do notice that Hispanics tend to maybe not fully received or maybe diminished,
Mhm.
compliments, as an example. But for him, it was his way of teaching me humility and not letting it get to my head. And so I think I struggle with fully accepting it, because I want to remain humble and not ever come off as like arrogant or conceited or self-righteous. And that's been a really fine balancing act. And that's something that I've learned and I'm working through now as an adult, as to like, how can you truly operate with grace from that place?
Yeah, I would say it probably is a cultural thing. That makes sense to me where it is not wanting to come off as, like
Mhm.
you said, entitled or what's another word for conceited?
Arrogant?
Arrogant? Yeah, I guess. But yeah, not wanting to come off.
Self-absorbed?
Yes, self-absorbed for sure.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking about it, and even just something as simple as so when I was a new mom
Mhm.
and I had, the little car seat that you carry around everywhere, or you're snapping that car seat into the stroller and you're trying to like navigate a stroller. So you get really good at doing those things. You get really good at navigating how to use a stroller and how to open the doors and going in backwards, and right, you figure out how to maneuver through the world with this big bulky item. And I remember people would always want to help, and even me, I always try to help a mom when I see them, and a lot of times we're just so dead set on, no, I can do it myself. And
Mhm.
we can do it ourselves, but why do we feel the need to do it ourselves? Like, what is it that we're trying to prove? Oh, I don't need anybody, right? And I've said this before, how the fucking, late 90s and early 2000s independent woman and like boss babe has like really fucked us up
Mhm.
because we're over here trying to be these, just self it's like self-operating and nobody can help and I'm going to do this myself. For what? For what? I've said this before too with childbirth. Well, oh no, I'm not going to get an epidural because I don't need it and I can handle it. And I always tell people your baby's not going to love you more if you don't get an epidural. Like that doesn't make you a better mom because you didn't get an epidural. Like that
Yeah.
shit's fucking painful, and if you need an epidural, then you get your epidural. It's
Yeah,
fine. It
seriously.
doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't make you less of a mother. Like it's fine. Your partner's gonna love you. Your baby's not gonna have any idea. Like don't even worry about it.
So that actually was another point that I wanted to hit on is the gender aspect of it. So I feel like, at least this has been my observation and experience, that men receive compliments so much more different like than women do.
I almost hate giving compliments to my husband because he's just like, yeah, I know. And it drives me crazy. And it's like, fuck, like, be
Mhm.
humble. Like,
Mhm.
but he's not like, oh my gosh, you look so hot today. And he's like, well, yeah, I look like this every day. And it's just like, God, can't you just be like, thanks, wife? Like, that was very kind of you to say to me, instead of
Mhm.
just like being such a, yeah, so arrogant about it. I love you, babe.
So, okay,
He doesn't listen.
he doesn't listen. Okay,
Mm-mm.
so question, because I can't speak to this, but do you think that, like, the idea of you doing it or being able to do it yourself also plays in the imbalance of masculine, feminine energies in a relationship? And it doesn't have to be like your current partnership, but like throughout the past or in the past. Do you feel like because you can't do it yourself and you've been more maybe in your masculine than your feminine, it's played a role in your relationship?
No,
No? So you, okay, that's cool.
I don't think so. If I'm understanding the question, then my answer is no.
So, okay. What's your understanding of the question, just so I'm clear?
I don't know. I can understand it,
Um,
but it's like Spanish. I can understand it, but don't ask me to repeat it back
yeah,
because
yeah.
no hablo. So that's how I feel about
Well,
your
okay.
question.
So, okay, I'll just make another point to make it a, like, personal experience. I think because I've been operating from my masculine and now I'm in the transition to my feminine energy. And by the way, my solar plexus is totally experiencing it. And the way that I'm experiencing it is that, like, I can't eat certain foods. Right now is like I transitioned out of the masculine which basically I've been in for like the last year and a half pretty heavily to get my business going.
You
But
mean
it's
32
directly,
years?
yeah, 32 years, right? Almost, not yet. We can't age ourselves just yet, Nick. We still got a couple weeks. But
Mm.
um, I have noticed that I attract feminine men because I'm in my masculine. And that's made dating pretty hard because I don't want a feminine man. Like, I want a masculine and I want to be a masculine man and I want to be in my feminine. And I've noticed that I'm like, damn, like I really have attracted some softies. And that's been kind of like the pattern in the last maybe like 2 years of the guys that I've gone on dates with. And it's such a turnoff because like I know how strong my masculine is and I would want someone to meet me on that level so I can lean into my feminine.
Yeah, but then I think now we're kind of I don't know how much I like that because then I think we're almost like saying that, for men, like it's not okay to be in your feminine because then
I'm
you're
not
too
saying that though.
soft.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like it's been my experience that I've learned. I'm like, oh, I don't want someone that's more in their feminine than their masculine, at least for me in terms of partnership. And like I have an idea of like what type of energy I'm looking for and trying to operate from myself personally, both like from in a partnership.
I'm gonna keep my thought to myself. Okay, moving on. So, what about when we're trying to okay, so receiving compliments is one thing, receiving help, we talked about that. What about receiving gifts or like money as a gift? And I almost feel like gifts sometimes in itself, and even, okay, so even in the profession of being a therapist, we're like not allowed to really receive gifts. Which I get it, but I also think it's like it's so ridiculous because I think some of these like rules were put in place so long ago and things times have like totally changed. And so, you're not allowed to receive anything from a client when if you think about it, like in therapy, you have such a close bonded relationship with each other, right? I mean, you go to see your therapist once a week. They know your deepest, darkest secrets. And if you want to gift them something out of the kindness of your heart, and your therapist is like, no, sorry, we can't, because in therapy, it's like, well, now you need to explore this with them. And why do they feel the need to give you this? Like, right, it ends up being just such a thing where it's just like, because we're humans and people just sometimes want to like share with another and like give with another, or sorry, and give to another. So that's like something else that comes up, not even in just life but then like in my profession, and I don't think it's the same for maybe your profession where it's like, oh hey, if you're going to a doctor's office or something and they're like, hey, you always bring us stuff here, like thank you, like is that something that you guys are able to do or not do? I don't know, but it is such a thing in the occupation of therapy and in that world.
Yeah, I think sounds like bribery in some way.
No, but it's not bribery. A lot of times it's like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of an example. So if it's your birthday and your client knows it's your birthday and they're like, "Oh, hey, I brought you a $10 Starbucks card because I see you always have Starbucks coffee in your office." Like how's that a bribe from a client, But it's like, "Oh, I can't accept this from you." And why did you feel the need to give me that? Like it ends up having to be something that's so much deeper than, "Oh, I know my therapist likes coffee." Like coffee is such a neutral type of thing, I
Hmm.
feel like, because everybody drinks coffee and everybody has it, but like why does it have to be such a thing when someone is just like, oh here, I thought of you?
So, would you say you have a hard time accepting gifts?
I have a hard time accepting gifts if it's not in the context of like a birthday, an anniversary, a holiday. If it's just like
Hmm.
a, oh here, I think I have a harder time with that. And
Hmm.
depending on the gift, if it's like a very extravagant gift, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, I would, and I mean, I know this. I always feel like I have to earn it if it's outside of some type of event like that. And
Mhm.
otherwise, it's like not merited. And I know for a fact that that is those are energies in my birth chart working against me. Those are things that I've learned in childhood. Those are things that I've
Mhm.
learned, or maybe even just put in my own head through experiences at work, through leadership. You can pick that shit up in any way, but like
Mhm.
I mean I know how I can trace it back. So yeah, I agree.
Because if
Same.
someone's thinking about you or someone's giving you a gift, it's because they were thinking about you, right? And so if someone's thinking about you, then that means that maybe you're important to them in some way or they care about you in some way. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I thought of you. Or it could be something so simple. I saw this and I thought of you. And why is
Yeah.
that sometimes so hard for us
So that
to?
tells us, yeah, that also says that that's, or at least the way that I'm kind of interpreting that, it's like we're more in our masculine than feminine because receiving is feminine energy.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So then we have the opposite side, right? We have the opposite end of the spectrum where people that are so in their feminine that take and don't give back, and not even needing to give back equally, but just not trying to give back, period, right? Where it's like,
Mhm.
you don't want to be around those people because, right, they're mooches, they're leeches. Like, I don't want to just be with someone that's always like taking, taking, taking. Like,
Mhm.
what are you bringing? And it doesn't even have to be financial. I'm not even talking about that you have to pay for them every time you go out to lunch. It can just be just the energy exchange, period. Like, are they
Mhm.
giving you the same attention, the same amount of like care to the friendship that you're giving to them? Do
Mhm.
you guys call each other equally, right? Or
Yeah.
is it always
Yes.
one person calling? Is it always one person making an effort to hang out
Yeah.
versus, the other person like never making that effort, but they're always out doing something with someone else,
Mhm.
right?
I
So it
agree.
doesn't even have to be these tangible things that we're like talking about. Why are you laughing?
Because that example that you just gave, I'm like, "Oh, that is so Nicole, one of Nicole's pet peeves." Because it's true. It's like, yes, like I agree by the way. Like friendships, the being
Mm-hmm.
seen, equally seen. If
Mm-hmm.
you know that said friends called their other friends more without calling you,
Mm-hmm.
that fucking would irritate me too, especially if like I
Mm-hmm.
know how I'm showing up. But I also think that like you and I like we're just good friends in general, so maybe we're just
Right.
a little
And other people
biased.
are and other people are not. Other people
Yeah.
are not good friends. And I know that I'm a good friend because I'm
No, you
usually the
are.
one, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
usually the one making an effort to call people. I'm usually the
Mhm.
one. Maybe I'm not so good about meeting up because I'm just always tired. I don't like to leave my house. But I'm like old, I like to talk on the phone to people. I don't just want to like text. I like the voice notes now because you can hear each other's voice. But I want to call you and not have a reason to call you. I just want to call you because I'm thinking of you. And I do that a lot. And then sometimes I get busy and then I forget, but then I don't always hear from my friends. And then every once in a while, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't heard from you. Like, I need to call you because you always call me. So, like, I need to be the one to reach out." Like, they sometimes know and they realize, "Oh, shoot, like, I need to make an effort also." But I think it's just because for me, I'm just always like, I want to talk to people. I'm in my car. I want to have a conversation with somebody because I'm, now working with kids all day. So I can't have conversations with them.
Friends, this is literally Nicole's an Aquarius rising, so naturally she just has like the people person energy. So she's really good at calling people, like she is. And I will say
If
that
I
is the
don't call you,
difference.
you don't call me.
Yeah,
Brianna,
that's
if
true.
I don't call you, you don't call
I was
me.
I was just about to say that. That is the difference between an older millennial and a younger millennial. I don't enjoy talking on the phone if it's more
I love
efficient
it.
to text. Nicole loves it. I'm like, I'm like, okay, like boom, boom, boom. But I think I engage with so many people throughout the day through voice notes because voice notes for me or texting is like, it's my vibe, I guess. But no, Nicole's really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
Say thank you, receive.
Yeah, answer my fucking phone calls, people. When I call you, you pick up. And then and then there'll be sometimes where I'll call you and then you don't answer and then you'll call me back, but it's like, well,
Mhm.
you've lost my window of time, like
Yeah, that's true.
my
And
time
I
that I
know
was
that.
feeling social to have a
Hmm.
conversation is done because
Hmm.
I don't really like to have conversations when I'm at home because I'm busy doing things. So like the
Hmm.
minute I get home, it's very rare if I'm going to pick up your phone call, whoever it is. Like,
So that is so true. I will say though, it's always like you or dad that are calling me right as like I'm going into a meeting, right as I'm going into reading. I'm like, damn. So I don't know.
mhm.
Just maybe you just have that natural sense of like, oh, this is like, I don't know, an opportune time. But
Yeah.
and then if I call her back right away, it's just because I literally just missed her call.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
I'll usually
so
pick up, but if it's like
hmm
minutes later, like 10, 15, sometimes it's like, "Oh,
yeah,
well, I'll talk to you in a few days now."
yeah, seriously. Podcast before the podcast, guys.
Yeah.
So okay, we're talked about friendship and showing up in that regard. There was another point. What about in career?
Hold on. I feel like I have a
Hmm.
bone to pick with this friendship one. I'm going to be stuck on this one for a while.
Oh
Okay.
shit. Okay, I didn't mean to do that.
Well, not a bone to pick, but just think
Okay.
about it. Think about it,
Mhm.
people. Are you putting in the same amount of friendship? Sorry, are you putting in the same amount of effort into your friendships as your friends? So let's just speak in the context of relationships. Period. It doesn't even have to be
Okay.
friendships. It can be partnership. It can be anything. Any kind of relationship that you have with anybody. Are you putting in equal amounts of energy, of time, of effort into these friendships? And
Mhm.
how do you feel when you're in the company of these people, whoever they are, again, friends, family, are there
Mhm.
friends that drain your energy,
Oh
or
my
are
gosh,
there
I'm so glad you said that.
energy vampires?
Yeah.
Or are there friends that like kind of replenish your energy?
Yeah.
I have one person in particular. No, it's a good thing. I have one
No,
person
no,
in
I was gonna say
particular.
you better say I replenish your energy. We're sisters.
I have one person in particular that is not any of you guys.
Uh-huh.
And anytime I'm with him, he like fills me up. And I
I know exactly
feel,
who you're talking about.
yeah, I feel just like, oh, like that was just like food for my soul. And mind you, we're not, we're not having like deep conversations, we're talking about, whatever, right? But it's like the medicine that I need. And sometimes we do, though. No, sometimes we actually have a really good balance. And I think that's why it works, where we have a lot of fun and we're laughing and we're doing the dumbest shit together. But also, we can talk about things that are like difficult. And we've been with each other through like difficult things. And so for me, it's not something that we are able to do a lot of. Like, we're not able to have that time together. But like, man, when we have it, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize how much I needed that.
Is this the brother cousin?
Hmm.
Cousin?
Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you. I like needed that. And I leave and I feel
Mhm.
good and I feel happy.
And it's
And
mutual. It's not like you taking too much from him or vice versa.
no,
Like it's an equal
it,
exchange, which
it
is
is an equal
important.
exchange. And I think
Mhm.
in the same way, like, again, we don't talk very often because we're like so busy, like doing things, but like it's also the equal exchange where we call each other equally. We're not calling each other every week or every day, but we reach out to each other equally. We text each other, right? We do those things like in an equal amount. It's not always just him like calling me or
Mhm.
me calling him. It feels very like balanced. I have had a friend in the past, and maybe even a couple, but one friend in particular that never reciprocated the energy, like from the time we were teenagers up until now, and
Oh,
that's why we're not friends anymore. And even her now husband, you used to tell her like, hey, you need to like make more of an effort because she's always doing all these things and she never really did. And then there came a period of time where she only called me when she needed something. Hey, can I
mhm.
borrow this? Hey, can you babysit my kid? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? And I was like, you don't even call me just to be like, hey, girl,
Mhm.
can,
Mhm.
how are you? It was always calling me for a favor. And gosh, that was probably like 10, 15 years ago. And that's when I was kind of
Mhm.
like, this friendship, I think, has kind of like run its course. And this doesn't feel good anymore.
I know exactly who you're talking about, and I think it's just kind of one of those formalities in which you invite certain people to your wedding, which is
Hmm.
kind of like, the vibe that was that for this person.
Hmm.
But I told you about this
Yeah,
person
she
like a
pissed
while
you
ago.
off.
She
Yeah.
pissed me off and I was like, "Nah, fuck off. I'm done.
Hmm. Yeah.
We're done with you."
Yeah. Totally.
You
So,
learn a
anyway,
lot about people
guys,
at weddings.
give to the people that you want to give to, and also
Mhm.
pay attention to how much are you getting from them. And again, it doesn't have to be that you're getting something from them all the time, like, not in a bad way, but is there an equal balance, where maybe there's times that you are the one that's reaching out more,
Mhm.
but are they giving to you what you need when you reach out? And in those times where you're not able to, are they like picking up the slack? Are they saying, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I haven't heard from you. Let me reach out." Right? Because
Mhm.
relationships are not 50-50 no matter what. Marriages are not 50-50. Romantic relationships are not 50-50 because sometimes somebody only can give you 30 on that day. So that means you're going to pick up the other 70,
Mhm.
and that's okay, because when you can give 70 and they're only giving 30, that's okay. And that's where I think
Mhm.
the 50-50 comes in, but it's not 50-50 all the time. Like, it's not equal
Yeah.
in friendships, in relationships, and any of that.
I remember that time in which everyone within the immediate circle of my friendships, where everyone was getting married or finding their now husbands and dating and stuff. And they no longer really made time for me. And that
Mhm.
was really when I just started to I was like, all right, whatever, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna find my own interest. And it turned into such a sacred period of time, like the sacredness of being single kind of time for me in the last I would say 5 to 6 years. And I really learned a lot about how I also don't want to operate as a friend, or what like my moral and ethic code is moving forward and how much I want to give, because I think that actually that's something you've done really well. And even Brianna too, like you guys really do show up for your friends, even with all the things that you guys have going on. If they maybe forgot about that in the season of them jumping into, their now partnerships and marriages. So, yeah, I think that's really important. And it's also the art of that is receiving and taking too, because just as you receive, you can also take away from someone's energy, like depending on how
Mm-hmm.
you're showing up.
Yeah. Are you take a checklist, a mental checklist, a note of how you are showing up when you're with your friends. Are you just sitting there complaining the whole time?
Oh my
Are
God.
you just sitting there talking about everything that has to do with you and not asking them anything about how they're doing? Right? That's not good. That's a real downer to be around. And I
That,
notice that too when I'm like, oh, like gosh, I'm such a downer. I'm always complaining. Oh my gosh. So, my nail girl, I am so sorry because every time I go in, she'll ask me how I'm doing. And I realize I always say that I'm like tired. And yes, I am always tired, but like, fuck, Nichole, come up with something else. So I've been trying to, like, the last couple appointments to not focus on, oh, I'm so tired. And I'm trying to really focus on, okay, what's going good? Like, I'm good. I'm working through things and just not focus on like, oh, life sucks and like being, that downer. I don't
mhm.
want to do that. So I'm sorry that I've done that to you for 8 years. However many years I've been seeing you.
Oh yeah, you don't cheat on your nail girl.
No.
So actually, this is turning into the therapy episode I didn't even know that I needed. But literally, right
Mm.
before we started recording, I was sharing. I'm like, there are some people I won't even call anymore because I know they're going to drain my energy, and I
Mhm.
have to monitor and be like in a space where I'm just like, okay, like I know the first thing that they say is just going to be negative. So
Mhm.
I'm just like, so, and
Yeah.
it is a lot, especially if you're so sensitive to energy, which we both are. So, but I also want to point out that the people that are actually taking the time to ask how you are probably worth your time too.
Totally. Yeah, I have,
Mhm.
if I don't have very many friends, like I've always kept my circle
Right.
very small since I was a child. I've never been someone that had a group of like 10 girlfriends. Like it was just always like a handful. And I have a few friends that are really, really like dear and sacred to me that I feel like we do have a good
Mhm.
balance of um, calling each other and checking in and I've even noticed like, oh wow, like I haven't been showing up for this friend the way that I want to show up for them, and I need to be better about trying to show up for them in that way. So I'm making an effort now to try to be more just like make more outreach to them because I feel like
Mhm.
I've slacked in that area and I'm like, "Oh, I don't like that." Like that's not
Mhm.
the energy I want to be giving out.
Yeah. It's great food for thought. Okay, so
Mhm.
one other area that I really wanted to focus on was career. So I have noticed that some people that we've observed that, I mean, they could be teachers for us in whatever which way that might be, like motherhood, career, friendships. But what about when you know that you've worked hard, and or maybe haven't even worked hard, but you know that next level of success is coming in, and you being able to receive that or not allows that next step to come in. And I'm thinking of one person in particular who I'm not sure if they will or won't listen, but it's so interesting because like it's almost like feeling worthy of the level of success and abundance coming in with respect to career, and you allowing that to receive, or you receiving that for yourself. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say, guys. Like allowing that come to you and you not blocking that for yourself. That's also solar plexus.
That solar plexus that also I think is going back to what do you believe you are worthy of subconsciously. So you might think I want this promotion or I want this and I deserve it. But if you ask your subconscious if you deserve it, do you really think you deserve it? Do you think you're worthy? The answer
Hmm.
might not be no, and that might go back, or sorry, the answer might be no, and that might go back to childhood, what you witnessed. Maybe you saw parents not trying to advance in their career, and maybe you saw parents that did try to advance in their career but never could really quite do it. And so maybe there's some kind of block there where you're thinking,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, I really want this. but maybe you don't believe that it's true for you because you didn't see it. You didn't
Mhm.
witness that growing up. So maybe there
Mhm.
is a way that you're blocking it.
Yeah. Um, well, one, do you have any examples of that? Because I have one for myself. Because for me, I've always had to work for it or feel like I had to work for it in order to be deserving of it. But now transitioning to more of a balanced and being more in my feminine than complete masculine, there's no reason it shouldn't be easy. Like receiving and allowing career jumps and receiving money, like it's abundance is a birthright. I really believe that. And I don't know why it has to be hard, or at least I believe that it needs to be hard. But of course, like this is something in some capacity I've learned along the way.
I don't think so. I think for me, I've always been really lucky with work and I've always been
Mm,
approached to do certain things. There's been very few times that I've actually sought like a higher position because I wanted it. A lot of times I've been asked to do something,
hmm.
or hey, we're opening this position. I really want you to apply for this. I think there was only one time that I can think of that I applied for something because, and it wasn't even for the right reasons. It was just, well, we need this. And we were kind of worried about our program falling into hands of people that weren't familiar with us. I didn't want
Yeah.
the position, but I applied for it thinking, oh gosh, well, what's going to happen? And I
Hmm.
didn't get it. But usually I'm approached to do things and asked to do things versus me saying I'm going to do it. So even, so yeah. And actually, I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to try to
Climb the
move.
ladder.
I don't
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
I'm not interested
Yeah.
in that anymore. I was
Uh-huh.
interested in like maybe my 20s and 30s
Hmm.
and maybe like mid 30s. I think I kind of stopped around mid 30s where I was like, no, I don't want to do any of this. And people would ask me. That even happened at my old job where my old boss said that a couple people were like saying, "Hey, well, what about this person? What about that person?" And I was one of the names, and she's like, "What they don't like, they're not interested in it." And then they kind of
Hmm.
like accused her of trying to hold us back. She's like, "I'm not holding anybody back." Like,
Yeah.
and she wasn't. She's like, "They're just not interested. You guys feel free to talk to them, but they don't want to. They're not interested, and that's why they've never gone for it. That's why they've never applied."
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to. And so even with like the PTA stuff, right? I didn't go out and say, I want to join PTA and I'm going to run for this office. Like,
Yeah.
they were headhunting my husband and he was like, I'm not going to do it. And then they got my phone number. So I, like, I agreed to do it because they asked me to do it. I wasn't trying to do any of that. So then I stepped down, right? I stepped down recently because there was a little bit of a language barrier that I was hoping that I could remove myself and have it flow a little bit easier for the rest of the people on there because I'm the only person on there that doesn't speak Spanish. So now with the new people that are coming in, everybody speaks Spanish. So I was like, perfect. Like this will help meetings go a little bit quicker and easier. So anyway, I stepped down and said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then I got approached, hey, well, do you want to take over for the city? Do you want to take over the.
Yeah.
And I said, yes.
Guys, she's very busy and now she's busier. So,
And now I'm busier. I realize though that I have a need to feel important. And I think this is my way. Yeah,
oh,
I was like, I feel like this is my way to feel like important. And I
oh, that
and
makes
I
me
haven't
sad.
what why?
That makes me so sad for you. I could cry like a
Oh
cancer.
my gosh, stop. Well,
Is that
good.
your
I'm the
soul?
one that always cries on here, so
I
someone
know.
else needs to cry.
Is it your solar
And
plexus?
I think it's my solar plexus. And then I think
Uh
it
huh.
goes back to me wanting to be a better parent to my son than my mom was to
Yeah.
me. And my mom did do a lot, like as fucking as much of a train wreck as she is. She did a lot. She showed up for
Mhm.
chaperoning for field trips and I signed her up for everything and God bless her, she did it. So for me, I think it's more of like, okay, well she did those things, so now I need to like do like bigger and more because like I need to be a better parent than her. So I think this is like my way of like being a better parent
Mhm.
by like doing these things that I don't want to do because I need to be better.
I mean,
So anyways,
I
and that's how
know
I got suckered into being the
the
president
city,
for the city's
city.
PTA.
Well,
Wish me
you
luck.
already are. You don't need it. You're gonna do great, but you are. So just own
Oh,
that.
thank you.
Receive. You're welcome.
I received that compliment.
Mhm.
sometimes.
Don't dismiss it. This is what
I
the whole
know it's
purpose of this
hard.
episode. I know,
Okay,
Nicole, every time.
I know. So wait, but one more point I wanted to make, or not one more point. I'm sure I'm going to make more. So today we were
Mhm.
in gymnastics,
Yeah.
and they asked him to do something, and so he was doing something, and I was kind of watching him, and one of the dads looked over to me and he said he's really good at problem solving because he had to like move something and he was able to figure out, oh, I can't move this way, I need to like move it this way. And I was, because I was watching him and I was thinking, is he going to figure this out? And he did. So that made me think about, because I knew we were recording, that made me think about how easier it is, and the parents will probably get this, how easier it is for us to receive compliments when it comes to our kids and not when it's us. So anytime someone compliments me on my child, it's like, it's like food for my soul. It like lights me up to hear that other people also think that he's as great as I think he is. When they tell me, oh my gosh, he's so kind and he's so loving and he's so helpful and he's this and he's that, I can receive that like nobody's business. I can be like, thank you. Like, I appreciate you saying that to me. But if someone were to say that to me, you're so kind, you're so loving, you're so helpful, I don't think I could take that in. It's kind of like, oh, thanks, followed by like, it's the trauma or whatever, like with
Yeah.
dismissing it. But I want you to think about it if you guys are parents and you're listening. I want you to compare the way you're able to receive compliments about yourself and your character versus the way you're able to receive compliments about your child's character and their personality. And I want you to see the difference. And I want you to maybe think about why there's that difference where it's easier to receive it when it comes to your children.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting difference.
I think it's also just like an affirmation of like the environment and the positive environment that, you've created for him and he's growing up in. So it's like, children are a product of your environment, the same thing for us and like, the environment our parents created. So I really think that's beautiful
Oh my
because
gosh, I have a funny story. And
Mhm.
then we can get back to topic. So I was talking to him the other day. There's like something going on where somebody might be passing away soon. And so I'm having this
Oh
conversation
yeah.
with him about that. And he's asking about like heaven and hell, but he doesn't want to say hell because he doesn't want to say that word. So he just says down there. And I said, hell? He's like, yeah, I just don't want to say it. So anyway, so he's asking about heaven and hell. And then he says, Mommy, I don't want to get separated. I don't want one of us to go up there and I don't want the other one to go
Hmm.
down there. And I said, my love, we're not going to get separated. And I said, that's why I work so hard at making sure that you're a kind person and that you have a good heart and that you're a good little human. And he's like,
Mhm.
okay. So I tell my husband, and then I think I was telling Bestie, and
Shout
those
out.
assholes were both like, well, he's not worried about himself. He's worried about you, Mom. He's worried about you going to hell, him going to heaven. And I was like, oh, you're probably right. Yeah, he's like, I'm
Mm.
good, Mom. Like, I have a good heart. Like, I don't know about you,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, it's so
It was
true.
hilarious. Anyway, go ahead and continue your thoughts on receiving.
I don't even know that I had any more. I feel like I caught or spoke to all of them. So, do you have any thoughts? Final thoughts?
I do. And I have an example of a time that I had such a hard time receiving, and I felt bad in the moment and I still feel bad about it. So we
Oh,
were in Vegas for our anniversary last year
is
for our
this
anniversary.
is this a thought that lives rent free in your head?
No, I thought about it when we
Oh,
were prepping for this episode.
okay.
And it was our first anniversary, and I had posted, whatever on Instagram.
Mhm.
And someone that we know had messaged me and they were like, "Oh my gosh, happy anniversary. What's your Venmo? I want to send you guys money. I want to treat you guys to to drinks."
Oh, that's so nice.
And I said, "Oh, thank you so much, but like, no, you don't have to do that." And
Oh,
I told, yeah, and I think
can
I
we talk
even
about that?
said, yeah, I think I
Mhm.
even said I have like such a hard time, but like I really appreciate you even like wanting to do that.
Mhm.
And and I don't know why I couldn't do it. And part of me was because like my husband doesn't really know this person like as like we don't really know them that well. They're like friends with
Mhm.
like his friends, but
Mhm.
I talk to them sometimes, and like on Instagram or whatever, or sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, I want to send you a client," when I was doing private practice. And it just felt so like wrong to me to take money from like someone that maybe wasn't like in our like immediate friend group. And even then, I don't even know, like I think it was the fact that they asked me that it was like, I need to give this to you. If someone just has my Venmo and they're like, "Hey, I sent you money," I would be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. You didn't have to do that." I'm not going to send it back though. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
fact that it was
Yeah.
like, I would need to like give it to them, like it felt like an extra step. Like, if you guys want to send me money, Gabs, for our anniversary, go ahead. You have my Venmo. But that's
Mhm.
different.
Mhm.
We were out with a friend recently. A couple of the guys couldn't go, and they sent a good chunk of money. One of them sent a good chunk of money to my sister-in-law so that she could spend the money on him while we were out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like how?" And we were all so surprised, like, "You sent a lot of money." He's like, "Oh yeah, like treat him out to a good time." And I was just thinking, like, wow, like would I have been able to receive that? Like, do I feel worthy of people wanting
Mhm.
to gift
Yeah.
things to me out of the kindness of their heart?
Mhm. What, so you feel bad about, did you not receive it, or
No, I didn't.
oh, you didn't? Okay.
I didn't give him my
So,
Venmo, and I didn't take it, and then I apologized. I said, and I said, like, actually have a really hard time like receiving gifts, but like I'm so like thankful that you would even like think of that or consider it.
yeah. So that point that you made about like, oh no, thank you. So like no, saying no to a gift like that, that's also blocking. And then I don't even know that we talked about money, but money is like a whole nother thing too, because if someone's gifting you money,
Mhm.
it goes kind of hand in hand with the whole idea of like, are you blocking receiving more money down the road? Because
Totally.
that's, I mean, think about it. And I've said this on the podcast before, celebrities, millionaires, the people that are billionaires, they have money because they want it and they don't have a hard
Mhm.
time receiving. So if you ever, as someone that I love studying and just observing, if you ever notice when Kim Kardashian receives a compliment, she's very humble about it, but the way in which she receives it, it's quite fascinating to observe her body language, just how she listens, if she how she responds. Responding is also another way that I'm like learning to be a little bit more gracious about, because anyways, just study Kim and like let me know your thoughts. Send us a DM. But I think that I always feel like I owe something in return. So like
Mhm.
the score can be balanced or
Right.
like evened out. And that's certainly
Yes.
something that I've learned.
Mhm.
And I also, but also like our parents too, like they, and it's more mom, like she gives things out of the goodness of her heart and it always comes back in some capacity. And I'm just like, where did you learn that? Because you came from poverty, both you and dad did. And she really worked on that somehow throughout her relationship with money over the course of time. So I need to ask her about that, because I do think that because money is energy, there is kind of like a balance between like receiving more money and being open to it and not blocking it, especially and desiring it. Because again, these millionaires, billionaires, they have money because they want it.
Well, how do people that are living in poverty or that come from those kinds of backgrounds, how do they, and especially culturally, if we think about our culture, how do they give to others? They might not give to them monetarily, but when you show up at their house, they're going to want to feed you, right? So they're
Yes.
giving in other
Yes.
ways, like let me feed you. I don't have a lot to give, but I can give you something, right? Name a time you've gone to any Mexican family's house, and doesn't have to be Mexican, just any like Latin family, and they don't try
Mhm.
to feed you or like take care of you in some kind of way,
Mhm.
right? They might not have all that money, they're not going to give you money or they're not going to give you those things, but they might give you love, they might give you food. Like that is their love language, right? Like feeding
Mhm.
is the love language.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know what? I do say like it does feel good to just give out of like the goodness and kindness of your heart and not expect anything back. Like I personally love buying stuff for people that I know are really going to appreciate it, like my friends and family when I'm on vacation,
Mhm.
because like I know that they're going to be like, "Oh, like how nice. She thought of me." And
Mhm.
I don't expect anything in return, but it brings me joy. to
Mhm.
like just see that, hey, like I was relaxing and I was maybe away for some time and I am, I ghosted you guys, but
Mhm.
that's like how it makes me happy, brings me joy to gift others in that way.
And so think about too that maybe times that you've tried to give to somebody and whether that was trying to help somebody and they declined your help, right? You're trying
Yeah.
to hold open a door
I
for a mom with
just
her
did that.
stroller
I just
and
did that.
they're like, "No, it's okay. Thank you." Or, trying to help somebody pick up things. "Oh, no, I got it." Right? Just anytime you try to help someone and they refused your help, whether they've, refused money that you were offering them, they've refused like, "Oh, let me buy your coffee." "No, it's okay. I got it." They wanted to buy your lunch. "No, no, no, no. We can split it." Whatever it
Yeah.
is. How many times have you tried to give to somebody and they haven't been able to receive it? And how did that make you feel when you were turned down to
Oh.
do something for somebody and to try to give to somebody and they said no? And it
Mhm.
probably doesn't feel very good, to you when it's like, "Oh man, like I really wanted to do this for them and they said no." And as again,
Mhm.
not because you're trying to do it because you want something back in return, but because you just want to do something to be kind. And what is that
Mhm.
like when somebody isn't able to receive it? How do you feel about it?
Mhm.
So I kind of want everybody to think about that. I had a friend who it was very interesting because I've never had the same kind of relationship with this friend that I've had. I've never had a relationship with anybody else that I had with this friend. And this friend always like I it was so weird. I always felt the need to like love her, to tell her how much I loved her, to tell her how great she was. She wasn't asking for any of these things like at all. But I always felt like she didn't know how great she was, like how great of a person she was and how capable she was. And I always felt the need to like shower her with like love and like affection and compliments and like encouragement. And she had such a hard time receiving it to the point that she pulled away from me. She pulled away from a lot of us, so she pulled away from me. And I didn't see her or talk to her for a while. And when I did finally catch up with her, maybe a year or two, I don't even know how long it had been a while. When I did catch up with her, she had let me know how she felt. What did she say? She felt like she had let me down because
Wow.
I was always like encouraging her to do better and to just, and not even like telling her you can do better, but just like, "Oh, have you thought about this? Or maybe you could do this," right? Because she was so smart and so capable and she didn't do any of the things that I had maybe suggested she do. And she was saying how like I didn't feel like I was like living up to what you thought I could be, and here you are doing all these things. And I'm not even doing anything great, but like maybe just moving to like a better job or moving to a better home, right? Not even really big things.
Mhm.
And she like pulled away from me because she was like embarrassed. And I've
Can you tell
never,
me who this is after? Because I don't have an
yeah,
idea, but I don't know if I know
I've
for
never
sure.
gotten her back, and it makes me so sad, and I
Oh,
had a dream about her last night.
maybe it's time to reconnect. Or are you not going to open that door?
Well, and then she changes her number all the time, so then
Oh,
yeah,
so she's a runner.
she's she's right. So she's a
She's a
runner.
runner.
I'm, like, chasing
She's a
her. I'm like,
runner.
"I just wanna love you. I just want to,
Yeah.
like, love you and tell you how great
Yeah.
you are," and she's like, "Get the fuck away from me," right? And I just
Mhm.
wanna, like, love her, hug her, kiss her, like, tell her she's amazing, and it's, like, too much of her. She can't receive that energy from me that I'm trying
Mhm.
to give her, and it
Mhm.
makes me so sad, and it makes
Yeah,
her
and
feel uncomfortable, and but I don't know, it was just the weirdest thing, like, I've never felt that need with any other person in my life but her.
have a couple thoughts. It's probably a past life thing. And then also, that's also, if anyone's experiencing something like that or a similar situation or whatever, that is not a reflection of you. That is totally their shit. So that's internal
Mhm.
within them. So
And I mean,
just needed to point that
that's what
out.
she said. She knew. She's like, "This is like me. Like, I just know that." Like, she's like, "I'm embarrassed."
Hmm.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Why?" Like, like, I don't ever want you to be embarrassed. Like,
Hmm.
like, I have this kind of job, whatever. I was like, "You could go fucking work at McDonald's. I don't give a fuck what kind of job you have." Like, and I told her, "I just love you for you. I don't care where you work or what you do. Go
Oh
fucking
my
work at
gosh,
McDonald's and hook me up.
that I know their
I love
fries are
French fries.
expensive now, guys.
Don't use the word
um,
expensive."
Oh, what word do I use now?
Premium.
Oh, it's premium. I mean, I don't eat
Premium
McDonald's, so
priced.
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But by the way,
So any
Nicole,
last thought before I have my last word?
yeah, we don't know how to shut the fuck up because we're already at an hour for a topic I didn't even come prepared for. But apparently, we had a
Mhm.
lot to talk about with respect to
Always
just
do.
this every time. But receiving, it is an art. If you
It
guys
is an
have
art.
tips, it is an art. Let us know because I think that that's something we're both consciously working on, and maybe you are too. It's I think one of those topics you may not even realize that
Mhm.
you struggle with because I know it really wasn't brought to at least, or maybe I wasn't aware of it before the last 2 years. So
So I'm going to give you guys some homework. Okay, this is like therapy here. I'm going to send you
this
guys
really
home with
has been
homework
a
and we're going to
therapy
check in.
session. Okay.
Okay. I want you guys, I no, and I do actually really want you guys to message me either personally or on the pod, wherever you want, whatever page. I want you guys to try to receive for an entire day for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime anything is being offered to you, I want you to receive it. If someone's trying to hold open the door for you, make sure you say thank you. If somebody compliments your outfit, say thank you and don't follow it up with where you got it from or, you got it on sale, you got it on clearance. Don't do any of that. If someone tells you that your hair and makeup look good, say thank you. If someone says you smell good, say thank you. They don't need to know what you're wearing unless they ask you what it is, right? Just follow it up with a thank you. If somebody wants to buy you lunch, you say, yes, thank you. I'll get you next time. If you want, you don't even have to add the next, I'll get you next time. You know what? Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Any kind of energy that is being offered to you for 24 hours, I want you to accept it and take it and see how that feels. Check in with your body, check in with your stomach, right? We said it lives in the solar plexus. Check in your stomach area to see what does that feel like for me? Does this feel uncomfortable? Was that easier than I thought? Was that much harder than I thought? And just see what it's like to for an entire 24 hours to receive. That's all.
Have you done this before, Nicole?
No.
Okay.
I'm going
Okay.
to do it with you guys.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Holding you to it.
Remind me, I'll do a story. I'll do a reminder on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'll hold myself accountable that way. So I'll do a reminder for everybody, and then I'll do it myself.
Sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? Any last words?
I really enjoyed this topic.
I received that.
I'm so happy that you received that. I think that's all I got. I feel like we covered a really good amount and I'm very happy with it.
Okay. And I know we didn't touch on money so much, but the topic for this came up from a workshop that was centered around money. So I feel like that could be a whole episode in itself. I just know that I personally struggle with talking about money because it's something that I'm still calling in. And I don't feel like I'm at a place where I'm like, oh, I can tell others how to call in money when I'm working on it actively. I think I want to have like a goal in mind before I can do that. So we could probably have
Yeah.
a whole money episode.
Another one, a bonus one.
Yeah.
Part two.
Yeah, because we talked about the energy of money, but we didn't really talk about the energy of receiving money so much. So anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Money's like a
I'm going
whole
to,
nother area.
yeah. I'm going to pull the card today, but Gabby's going to interpret it. So we're pulling from
The healing
the
waters.
Healing Waters Oracle.
Every Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces should have that deck.
They should. Okay.
Okay.
Give me a minute. All right. Let's see. Gentle force, consistency, persistence, patience, the long game.
Hmm.
What are you
Well,
feeling in? What are you feeling with that?
let me close my eyes real quick. So it kind of links back to what I was saying in the episode where solar plexus is always going to be one that you're working on, and it's never not going to stop because as you're working on yourself, you are constantly reaching new levels of evolvement, of growth. And so the solar plexus is going to be something that needs to be tended to. And so some ways that you can do that are, I mean, again, stomach, solar plexus, so diet, movement, honoring the color yellow, whether that's like working with essential oils or also sweating, like going to hot yoga. But I was actually also seeing the root chakra And for me, root chakra all comes back to deservingness and basic needs, and just knowing that, like, inherently you are deserving of abundance and, you know, being taken care of and receiving compliments and having security be met in whichever way that looks like for you. So just know that solar plexus is something that's not going to be tended to overnight, and it's a constant evolution.
It's a bitch.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Well
All
said.
right. We hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. And don't forget about the homework assignment from your therapist, Nichole. And I will check in with you guys to see if you're doing it. And I will do it myself. I should hold myself accountable.
Yeah, and check out the deck. We'll link it in the show notes. It's really beautiful. I have it
It is
too.
really good.
Yeah, I don't read for other people with that one. That's one of those decks that I just use for myself, but the artistry is really gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but we'll figure it out. All
Okay.
right. Bye.
Bye.